get ready, 'cause here I come.
One last thing, I'd like to introduce our new social media manager, Lily.
Stand in the middle of a hurricane, looking right.
McCoy with a cutback, reaching into the end zone for the West Virginia touchdown.
Mahomes wants to throw in trouble, gobbled up, slammed to the turf.
Howard to the end zone. The back, does it come down? Touchdown! Short, able to get his foot down. Howard with time. Once wide in the end zone. Touchdown, West Virginia.
Mahomes rolls up. In trouble, Mahomes has to get rid of it, and he won't.
Ball on the deck.
West Virginia recovers. It's Kahari Sharif, the redshirt senior. Howard under pressure, finds space. Scholar. Howard scores. Touchdown, West Virginia.
Still in the pocket. Falls an interception. Picked off by Douglas. Howard being chased from behind. Tanner Wood in pursuit to the end zone. Man open. Touchdown. Javon Durant.
Crawford, the speedster running back, finds a crease. You don't have to block them all when Justin Crawford carries the football. That's what head coach Dana Holgerson told us.
McCoy keeps his feet. And McCoy with the burst across midfield.
McCoy again. Breaks it. McCoy heading to the end zone.
Shell is the physical runner in that run game for West Virginia.
Medway just churning up yards today here in Iowa. And the talent is there, and it's deep for West Virginia. Man, these receivers for West Virginia, Shorts, Gibson, White are pretty good.
Throws one up for grabs.
And it's caught by Short.
Skyler Howard says, my guy's better than your guy. Nikhil, go make a play for me.
Intercepted, picked off by West Virginia's Rasul Douglas.
Fake it to him on third down. And Bouchel gets pounded by Kaiser White. As they take down the quarterback for a sack. Chuku.
Here's the confusion that Tony Gibson provides with this style of defense. He's been terrific as the coordinator.
Tony Gibson bringing everybody in the kitchen sink.
West Virginia defensively just all over the place.
Well read by that West Virginia defense.
Dana Holgerson sat him down and said, hey, I want to come up with a couple of words that are going to describe our team. Two terms that they came up with. Blue collar, fighters.
Completes the pass. Garrett Jennings. Jennings to the end zone for a touchdown. Here's Howard going deep to Gibson again. He made the catch. What a play. Howard taking a shot deep down the field to Gibson. Shelton Gibson. Their big play wide receiver.
Over the middle. And caught.
Great reception. Shorts. He is the guy they go to in tough spots when they need to move the chains. Goes deep.
Douglas has tremendous ability to get to the football.
And Rasul Douglas now with his 8th interception on the season.
Howard looking, gonna air it out in traffic, and it's caught. Oh my goodness!
Taysom Hill looking for Hefo on the adjustment, and it's picked off by Fleming. West Virginia, the interception with a minute to go.
Snap is good. Hold is good. The kick is no good.
And it is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
Bouchel rolling. He'll send up a prayer. Back of the end zone. It is tipped off and incomplete. And West Virginia hangs on.
Live from the Man Cave in South Parkersburg, West Virginia. This is Roberts Report. Let's talk about it. And now, the host of Roberts Report, Craig Roberts.
Watch it all fall down around you now. Was it ever really worth it? Having your kingdom crumble to the ground because you never had the courage. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up.
Welcome, everybody, to Roberts Report, episode number 12. We have Rich Walters here this week with, he was from Parkersburg, WVU football player, offensive line, I think is what I seen your stats as.
Yes, sir.
And Rich is going to tell us his story here. He had a few bumps in the road. I'll just let you take it, Rich. I don't want to speak for you, man. You're bigger than I am.
Yeah, I had a few bumps in the road, man. I got to tell you, it's been a long, wild ride. I'm from Parkersburg, West Virginia. I come from a good family. You know, I come from the All-American background. Obviously, there's a little bit of dysfunction and stuff like that at the level of family. I think everyone kind of experiences that a little bit. You know, it's nothing crazy, catastrophic, or anything like that. You know, from the outside looking in, you thought that my life was, I was pretty much had it made in the shade. I was popular in school, played sports, excelled in all sports, played all year round. I wrestled, played baseball, played football. My dad was my head coach for all of them.
Wow.
Yeah, he really worked hard with me. I'm the product of a lot of love. You know, I have a big family, really big family. We had an in-ground swimming pool growing up. You know, we had a nice, huge yard. We had everything that we ever wanted. I never dreamt that what was going to happen to me, what ultimately happened to me, was going to happen to me. And it took a long time, a lot of suffering to get to where I'm at today. But, you know, like I said, I grew up. I was popular. I had a lot of friends. You know, I had a lot of things going on. I had a really bright future ahead of me. And I think it was just kind of normal. You know, back then, at 13 years old was the first time that I had ever picked up and drank or got high or anything like that. And it was just like typical junior high stuff. Back in those days, it was, you know, you smoked a little bit of bud and you drank and you went to parties in junior high and high school. You know how it is. I guess I just took it a little more serious than everybody else. But I went through that whole deal. And a lot of people were in recovery and stuff like that talk about the first time they ever picked up and they got loaded, they felt like they had arrived. Like it was the greatest thing that had ever happened to them, the greatest feeling in the world. See, because what we do for the effect produced by it. You know, I drink and drug for the effect produced by the drink or the drug. And when the first time that I ever picked up, it wasn't my experience because I come from a mom and dad who was always, you know, never used drugs, never smoked cigarettes, never drank, none of that stuff. You know, my whole life, as far as I can remember, were always on me about that. So the first time that I ever did it, I felt guilty and shameful and remorseful. It wasn't long after that to where I found some buddies whose parents didn't really care as much as my parents did. And from Friday to Sunday, we could pretty much stay loaded, stay out as late as we wanted. Whenever I discovered that, I discovered how much I loved those things because I have nothing to be afraid of anymore. Now I could just do them on my own time and not have to worry about going home and getting busted for it by mom or getting busted for it by dad. And when I did that, it made me a different person. I loved what that kind of stuff did for me. It lit me up, allowed me to talk to women, allowed me to be free-flowing, allowed me to just kind of become everything that because I guess now that I think about it, there was a point in time where I started to feel a little bit awkward, you know, like around that puberty age, you know, and I started to feel a little bit awkward and all that stuff. And I'm afraid. I'm driven by fear because I'm afraid to talk to chicks. I dress a certain way because I'm trapped inside of what you think about me. I want you to think good of me. You know, I started doing all these different things and all these different decisions based off fear. And when I got lit, it made me into a whole different person. It made me into like what I felt like was Superman. So I loved it naturally. Yeah, I was a weekend warrior with the booze at this point in time. Still playing sports. You know, grades are starting to decline and all that stuff at this point in time. Now this is junior high. You know, started selling drugs. Started selling weed in junior high.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went through all this. And high school hits, you know, I started as a sophomore. It was just me and one other guy that started as a sophomore. We had a really studly team that year, you know, and all I wanted to do was party. I didn't even want to play sports anymore at this point in time. My sophomore year, I was tired of it because it was getting in the way of my partying. That's the honest to God's truth. Wow. Already at that point in time, at 15 years old, what I loved to do since I was a little kid was getting in the way of my partying. So Coach Burdett and them, they forced me to play. Well, they didn't force me to play, but they were heavily on my parents. You know, you got to make him play, you got to make him play. So I played, obviously. And I went on, and it just continued on. And, you know, I can remember, there wasn't a single day I wouldn't go to school stoned throughout the whole week. And I could hold it together until the weekends, and all bets were off. We were getting smashed. And we loved having huge parties, but I felt like back then that was a normal thing to do.
So you could make it all week through practice and make it through game and everything would be cool. That's how you lived basically.
Stoned, yeah. I mean, it was cool, and then I make it through the game, and then I get trashed completely all weekend. Did this all through high school. About my sophomore year, I start picking up some other things like hallucinogens and all that stuff. Start experimenting with different things. First time I ever tried heroin, actually, was in the mid-'90s. So it didn't take hold back then. What I was talking about with the booze and the bud and the hallucinogens and all that stuff were kind of just like what I stayed with. Went through high school, senior year, I dominated in football. We were good. We were really good. We ended up getting beat in the state finals by North Marion, which still bothers me today. But, at this point in time, I'm the life of the party, having huge parties every single weekend. So now it's literally become my lifestyle. I've incorporated it into who I am. I'm a party animal, that's kind of who I am at this point in time. I get the opportunity to go play at WVU, mom and dad and everybody else in my family and everybody else, because I could have went to Marshall or WVU, but I picked WVU. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad, everyone else, in town and my family, they were all way more excited about it than I was. And I had to I had one thing that I loved. Sports wasn't important to me at this point in time. That's honest to God's truth. When you have an addict mentality, an alcoholic mentality like me, it always wins out over your kids, over your job, over your life, and over the things that you love, like sports. I mean, anybody would love to play for them.
So you're literally at this period of time, going into your senior year or leaving your senior year and going into college. You're literally so talented at sports that it's basically no effort for you to be able to go play at the next level then, right?
No, I smoked cigarettes, I smoked weed, I took hallucinogens, I was snorting heroin from time to time, and I got drunk all the time. And I went on and played up there,
So you're like the smart guy who never has to do the homework and still can ace the test. You're basically doing that in sports.
Kinda. Right? I never lifted weights or anything until my
That's crazy.
I was just gifted like that, and it's not because I was bigger or stronger. I was with weights. I was smarter. I was a smarter player. I'd been playing for so long. I was good with leverage. I was good about using people's weight against them. I was good. I just outsmarted people on the field. It was.
You must also be incredibly aggressive too, though. I've always seen that people who are natural athletes are really aggressive, right?
Very. That's one of the things that I had to work on so much in recovery, because I was extremely aggressive to the point where I was violent. For a long time. A lot of fights, man. Lots and lots of bar fights. Just years of it. Hundreds of them. I thought that stuff was normal.
Well, that's probably a high too, right?
Of course. Of course. You got to love that stuff. Yeah, I did. I got addicted to the whole thing, and we were going out in bars. We had fake IDs when we were 15, 16 years old. And we were out in all the local bars, and we were beating up adults, getting dressed and beating up adults. And that was our deal. Me and another guy that I played football with, I won't say his name, he was a stud. And a couple of my other buddies who I'm still in contact with, they no longer live around here anymore. But yeah, man, we lived like rock stars. That's the truth. I mean, that's from day one. We were, full throttle in everything that we did. We were wide open, and that's all we knew.
Did places cater to you too? I mean, as well. I mean, you say you lived like rock stars. Did that kind of enable things a little bit? You think?
Of course. There came a point in time. By the time I was, 21 years old, I'm doing a lot of illegal things. So in Morgantown, that stuff's looked up upon. Everyone loves that stuff. You're a student, you're making money, you're doing all this stuff. We didn't live the life of normal college students. And then whenever I came back here, I had a lot of friends. I was a big socialite, on the social scene and all that stuff in regards to the bars and the clubs and all that. Now, a lot of people might disagree with that because I was mean, I could be mean. But I did have a lot of friends. And so people would obviously take care of us. They would, it'd be free drinks, free whatever. And not to put anybody out there, but, we'd be getting high all over all their clubs. I'm talking about the nicest establishments. I'm not talking about hole-in-the-wall dumps. I'm talking about nice places, and you just you had free reign to do whatever you want.
So if you're a West Virginia guy and you're playing in Morgantown, West Virginia has no pro teams. You're basically every person in West Virginia worships you, right?
Well, I don't know about that much because I wasn't like a superstar or anything like that for them.
I guess the team in general is.
But when you're a part of the team, you get perks that other people don't get. Yeah. It's like here's the deal. When you go away to college, they have certain frats. Them guys join those frats because they want to be a part of something, right? They want to be a part of something bigger and cooler, and this frat will represent me. I'm a part of this frat. Now that speaks for me, right? Yeah. There's no bigger frat at WVU than the football team. There's no bigger frat. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's a different level of things, man. It's literally from the education level all the way to the bars, you're taken care of. And if you get my drift.
Mm-hmm. And if this is happening at the junior high school and college level, good example. I'm going to slip off to UFC here for just a second. John Bones Jones. A good example. Messed up 2 or 3 times now with, and there you go. You get it when you want to, that you walk into a place and, you get your bud or whatever you want to get. And you probably have people.
Well, obviously he's a superstar, massive proportions.
Right.
So he really takes that. I couldn't even imagine being in a guy like his shoes. Just being on a smaller rung, you wouldn't believe what you can accomplish and what you can get, and what you can have handed to you.
It's scary. I mean, that's what. I mean, I guess that's what I'm getting at.
It can be scary because when they do it, when they're enabling the wrong person can become a monster. You got to understand something. Even though I was being enabled, I knew right from wrong. I was raised right. Sure. And that's a good thing. But a lot of these guys that come up there to play, they don't know right from wrong. Some of these guys come from the worst neighborhoods in America. I mean, they're hardcore. Yeah. And you wouldn't believe this. Some of the most worshipped people that are on TV playing them sports are hardcore. Man, I'm talking serious. Hardcore dudes, violent. And as long as they can ball, and as long as it depends on who your head coach is.
Sure.
Different coaches take different things. Some coaches, they're going to just slam them real quick, throw them off the team, put them on probation, violate them if they catch them doing anything the first or second time. Some coaches will continually sweep it under the rug just in order to keep guys playing. It's mind-blowing. It really, I mean, it is. But I'm not trying to throw them under the bus. They was really, really good to me, and they was good to a lot of people up there. And up there at WVU, they had a really good coaching staff, and they really were straight lace. But man, you're talking about serious money. A lot of these guys bring big money when you go to the other schools and stuff like that, or even it doesn't matter really. Think about it. Any school, these athletes bring a lot of money to their university. A lot of people show up to watch them. And so he went and he got busted getting high again, or he got busted getting drunk again, or he got busted stealing, or he got busted beating somebody up, or whatever. What do we need to do to make this go away? And it starts at the high school level.
Now, were you able to keep it together through college as far as studies and athletics?
I'll tell you, here's what happened. I only played up there 98 and 99. By that time, I was just cooked. All right, I was just like, man, because my alcoholism, my drug addiction had progressed so aggressively at this point in time, I didn't have a choice. I mean, looking back on it, knowing what I do now as it being a disease, I didn't have a choice because I had to keep doing what I was doing. I was on a road to, I was on a crash course, and I just didn't know it yet. But I created the excuse that I wanted to quit playing because it was interfering into my social life. And my social life was obviously getting loaded and selling drugs. And that's what it interfered with.
What was your answer? What was the, I don't want to say excuse, but that's the best thing I can think of for your parents and people that, that were probably disappointed?
I got to tell you something. That was a tough point in time. At this point in time, I'm 19 years old, and I hated doing that to them. I knew how much they loved it.
Obviously, you didn't tell them that I'm quitting, so because of my social life, right?
No.
So you had a reason,
I told them
right?
my social life and my school life that it was cutting into it,
Gotcha.
And I can't really remember what I disguised it as with them, but I can tell you, I know this, that deep down inside it destroyed me, and it hurt me that I was hurting them because I knew it was hurting them. Because they wanted me to be, they wanted me there. They wanted me to play. Everybody did. And I didn't want to. I just didn't want to. And that summer that I didn't report back to fall camp was the summer that seriously kicked off my cocaine habit. And I was a full-blown alcoholic, obviously.
So would you say that alcoholism would have been the thing that kind of, I want to say, gateway to that at this point, or
to what addiction?
Well, yeah, I think
alcoholism and addiction are the same thing. It's just different. They're just different terms, but they're the same thing. Alcoholism is a progressive disease. What started off with booze and bud for me ended up being a needle in my arm. with several different substances.
Because this is kind of one of the instances where, we've talked a few times where opiates is kind of a gateway to that. This is a different situation altogether.
Well, I'm going to get into that part of it too.
Okay.
And that's coming up here in a couple years.
And another thing that we talked about too just last week is whether or not some people just have addictive personalities and therefore they're more likely to become addicted or not.
Well, the way it's best put for me, and what it says in the literature that I go out of, is that we're bodily and mentally different than normal people. And what we have is an allergy to drugs and booze. And what an allergy is an abnormal reaction. Okay? So in other words, when I put something in my body, the reaction that I have is I break out into what is known as the phenomenon of craving. I want more. I was never a social drinker, ever. I was never a person that could drink a beer. Never. Or 2 beers or any of that. I'm full throttle, getting completely smashed. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's all I knew. I got more thirsty. The first one I drank, the more thirsty that I got. The same with drugs.
So you're totally right. I don't understand that.
Right. Yeah. You don't. And that's the difference between us. And it's only about 15% of the population who are like that. Now, with this heroin and all this stuff that's going on, it's a totally different animal. It's bizarre. It's got people grabbed, and it's like, because what does something for somebody, well, they tell people don't ever try it because you'll love what it does to you. And that's what the majority of people find out. There's that level of fear that keeps everyone from crossing that line. Yeah. See, because what happened with me was it started off with pain medication. In 2004, I graduated college, and I come out, I got arthritis in my hands real bad.
I see.
Yeah, my hands just completely trashed. Yep. It's been broke so many times from fighting. And I got it in my neck, and I got it in my knees, and I got it in my back from football and fighting and just living a rough life, because we were rough on ourselves. So I was waking up in the mornings after I graduated college, and I couldn't walk, or I'd be struggling so bad. And so initially we thought I had gout or something like that in all these joints, because I'd be struggling. So I go to the doctor, and he puts me on, this is before there was even a pain pill epidemic. I went to a normal doctor. I didn't know the first thing about pain medication. And he puts me on a bunch of pain pills, and again, what happened to me when I took that first pill is different than what happens to a lot of people. I have an allergy, so I have an abnormal reaction, so I broke out in the phenomenon of craving. I wanted more immediately. See, I've seen people take their pain medication, right, take their pill, a pain pill or whatever, and get clammy and get feeling like crap and be like, never again, man. I'm just going to throw these in the trash or sell them or whatever, but I can't take them because they make me feel like crap. Or some people will just throw up and they're just not for them. I'll never forget. There's a lot of things that we remember in life. A lot of people remember their first kiss. A lot of people remember their first, I remember the first time that I ever took a pain pill.
Wow.
And that's what it did for me.
And you were right about that. We were just talking about this last week is my wife and I's experience is that we have Vicodin sitting in the cabinet at home. And it's because when we've taken that, I'm like, man, I do not like the way this makes me feel.
Exactly. That wasn't my experience. When I come out of that little stupor that it put me in for a minute, I woke up and I thought to myself, my God, I need to find more doctors.
Wow.
Yeah, I needed more. I wanted more, and I got more. And I was willing to do whatever it took. I mean, I started doing crazy things at this point in time. I'm ordering them from all over the world, and it just gets crazy.
So how easy is it to get it? I mean, outside of a prescription,
or how easy was it for you in 04 anyway?
Yeah.
Well, it was easy then, and they were cheap. It was real easy, and they were real cheap. What happened was literally overnight, I'm taking 150 to 180 pills, my whole prescription, in 2 or 3 days.
Holy cow.
So the rest of the month, I got to make something else work to be able to get them for the rest of the month. Back then, it was easy to get other doctors. Back then, they were cheap on the streets, So it wasn't hard to buy up whole prescriptions for next to nothing. that suddenly quickly changed when people started to figure out what they were doing for them, and they started to figure out how bad other people needed them, and they started to figure out there was value in them. You know, that all changed, and they all became super expensive. But with that, when the Vicodin and the Percocet became super expensive, everyone started running to the OxyContin. And they weren't cheap everywhere. They were expensive down in southern West Virginia and other places. But if you knew the right people, you could get them for next to nothing. And you're talking about way more bang for your buck. So now at this point, you know, I can start off with one Oxy 80, okay, rather than taking 40 pain pills, 40 Vicodin or 40 Percocets. I can start off with one Oxy 80 through the day. But then that's just like anything else. That one Oxy 80 quickly becomes 10, you know, or 15 of them, you know. And then it just continued to move forward. Opana, Roxycontin, all that stuff. And then it got to the point where it was hard to find. The doctors started cracking down because the government started making it, you know, so they tightened the grips on all that stuff. And when that happened, here came heroin. It was like the perfect storm. You know, it was crazy the way it all worked out. When they cracked down on all the pills, because West Virginia got annihilated. I don't know if you guys have ever seen what Purdue Pharma had done to West Virginia, all the pills they dumped into West Virginia.
No.
You need to Google it. They dumped 9 million pills into a town of 382 people. Oxys. They flooded West Virginia. They targeted the Appalachian people. People in Appalachia have always been taken advantage of, always. From the time, early days in the coal mines, you know, all the way up through this. And I was just a panelist on a documentary the other night. It's called Oceana. It's about a town in West Virginia called Oceana. They call it Oceana. And they were talking about how bad they were hit there and what it's done to their town and how it's literally destroyed them. And that's just a common story in West Virginia. It sucks. It's sad.
So when you talked about 2004 and you're finished with school, now were you able to blend into society? Were you able to get a job? And
No. Well, and I'll tell you why. I could never pass a urine screen.
Mm-hmm.
I could have got a job. I had great opportunities. I wanted to be a pharmaceutical rep. Well, I ended up becoming one just in a different way. But I had great opportunities. You know, I was smart. As another thing, I never really had to work hard at school. I just was naturally slick, and I could. Where I was always best at was one-on-one communication.
Yeah.
Like me and you, you know, sitting here, interpersonal communication. Let's get down to brass and talk about what's going on, and then I can, you know, that's where I'm good. And so I was wanting to get in the sales force, but I could never pass a urine screen.
So did you graduate from?
Yeah. I don't know how in God's name I did, but I did. And well, I'll tell you how. Here's what happened. Don't ever let anybody ever tell you that college is hard. It's easy. It's super easy. And what I was doing was I was taking anywhere from 12 to 15 hours a semester, miscellaneous courses and all that stuff. And so I ended up getting there. I was there 6 years, you know, and all of a sudden I looked.
Well, that was the question I was going to ask, is how does 98 to 2004 end up? Okay, so
So I'm there 6 years, and suddenly I realized, hey, I got enough credit hours to graduate in general studies, which is known as Regents, a Regents bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Arts degree in Regents. So you're kind of like the jack of all trades. You don't really have a specialty, you know what I'm saying? But I had enough credit hours to go ahead and graduate. And by that time, I was strung completely out on cocaine. I was a full-blown alcoholic, bad. And I was really, really starting to get paranoid about law enforcement at this point in time because I was doing a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing. So I'd convinced myself that Morgantown was the problem. And if I just get out of here and get away from Morgantown, everything's going to change. So I moved back here, and I brought the problem with me. But I didn't know I was the problem. The problem was in the mirror the whole time.
So in that 2004 time frame, did non-addicted friends, parents, family know what was going on? Were you able to hide it, or?
I held it together for a long, long time. My immediate family knew. They knew what was going on. You know, obviously, it got bad. It got really bad. Because now I'm strung out on cocaine and pain medication, and I'm a full-blown alcoholic, you know. So I'm in bad shape already. This is 13 years ago, you know. And that's what I ended up doing. I was a speedballer. I loved doing speed and opiates at the same time. And that's just the way I always had to be the hardest of hard. I always had to, I had to be the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, the craziest, the smartest. You know, I always had to be the best at whatever it was. Even in regards to partying, you know, I just had to, it was just crazy. That's how my mind thinks, you know. And it's a good thing to a point, because if I redirect that way of thinking, it can end up benefiting me a lot.
Sure,
you know,
so
and it's helped me out a lot in recovery.
Yeah.
Yes, it's helped me out a lot.
So you thought Morgantown was a problem. You moved back to Parkersburg. What happens from there?
Wow. Moved back to Parkersburg. Brought the problem with me. And I got on those pain pills. And, you know, this time, when I moved back to Parkersburg, it was just cocaine and booze, right? And then I added the other monster in the list. And let me tell you something. You'll never know what being a slave is to something until you find out what it's like being on opiates. That's the ultimate slave. It's because you ain't even getting up and brushing your teeth or taking a shower without your fix. You're useless. You know, it's like having the worst flu you've ever experienced in your life times 20 every morning if you don't have it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that went on, you know, for a while. My Uncle Mike, he was one of my best friends. He was an idol of mine. I looked up to him. I loved him. He grew up right next door to me. In 2006, he shot himself in front of my grandfather from untreated alcoholism.
Wow.
Yeah. It destroyed us. That was a pivotal point. It was bad for me. Ultimately, what I did, though, was I was so selfish and self-centered that I took my Uncle Mike's suicide and made it about me. You know, and I used it as a manipulation tool to get me things, whether it be a woman or drugs or booze or money or just buying more time to not have to be responsible. You know what I'm saying? And I used his death and my, you know, I took advantage of it. And, you know, that's not easy to say. You know, I'm in recovery. I talk about a lot of things that weren't easy to say before, but now, you know, I'm comfortable talking about it because I know that wasn't me. I was a sick person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just sick. I was on autopilot, you know, forever. I didn't know anything about life, man. I was just happy-go-lucky and just thought everything was always going to be okay and just. And
so this whole time, how are you making it? How are you making rent? How are you?
I wasn't making rent.
Oh, okay.
I was really. This is 2005, 2006, and I'm usually moving and shaking so much. I'm rarely ever in the same spot. But when I did have to lay my head down, if I needed a place to go and I needed a place to keep things, I was at my mom and dad's.
I see.
And I was running and gunning, and so when you have that many habits, and I was coming back and forth from Southern California a lot. I was going out there and staying with my cousin. But when you have that many habits, man, it's hard to keep up with everything else, you know? So it was a terrible place to be. And then 2007 came and I landed a job, and it was a super high paying job. And it was the best thing for me and the worst thing for me. I started working in the oil and gas business as a landman. I'd sell leases. You know, I'd lease people. I had the gift of gab. I was good at that. I could have never worked a 9-to-5 job. Never. I was an independent contractor, so I worked on my own time, you know, and as long as I sent in leases, it was cool. You know, they never question you, nothing. You just have to show up to crew meetings and all that.
And did you go after this addictively like everything else? Did you go?
Of course, until I got grabbed even harder, because it ended up where, like, within 3 months I'm making, you know, $150,000 a year doing this, and that was bad for me.
Sure.
Man, it trashed me. There was a time period for a couple of years when I'd make like $7,500. Let's say I'd make $7,500 every 2 weeks, right? and I'd blow it all in a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'd have to call my company and have them advance me money and make up thousands of different lies as to why I needed it, because they're like, how do you even go through, how's that even possible? And when you party the way I party, it's extremely possible.
Yeah,
that's the way I did things.
Yeah, my dad has a question on here. Actually, Dave Roberts said, can you blame one person for getting you started? I mean, that's actually a good question. I mean, was there any body that?
No. I'm accountable for everything that I've ever done, and I'm responsible for everything that I've ever done. I made those decisions. I can't blame anybody. I'm not a victim. I'm just not. I'm not a victim, and for the longest time, I wanted to be a victim so bad. And they told me when I got here, victims don't stay sober. Because as long as I'm always trying to blame somebody else for my problems or things that have happened to me, I'm not willing to take responsibility for things. And I can take responsibility for those things. Even though I was never the first person who stuck a needle in my arm. Someone else did it for me because I didn't know how to do it. I can't blame them. I wanted them to. They didn't hold me down.
Yeah.
So I can't blame anybody. I can't. I have to thank everybody that I ever came in contact with, partied with, told on me, this, that, and the other for all the years I was out there, because everything that ever happened to me brought me to where I'm at today, and I wouldn't change that for anything.
So was there one person, though, that kind of followed you through a majority of it or anything like that? Maybe here and then...
What do you mean, always believed in me?
No, that's partied with you, the kind of the...
Yeah,
the peer pressured...
An enabler, maybe.
Well, it wasn't.
Enabler, yeah.
I'll tell you what. There's a couple of guys that I partied with, tons. And there's only about 2 or 3 of them that are still alive.
Wow.
I used to party. I used to party so hard. A lot of times, people would have. A lot of times, these guys would party with me in shifts. I mean, guy could only take 3 to 6 days of this kind of party because I'd go full throttle hardcore, and then another shift would have to come in and he'd go sleep, and I'd just be still going. Man, I was in bad shape, man. I mean, I was just bad. I was talking to a guy on the phone earlier today, trying to help him get into treatment. He was like, "Man, how did you do it? You was the worst person I ever saw in my life," and I laughed. The only thing I can think of is God. I mean, that's the only thing, because left to me, I could never pull that off. Yeah, I can't. That's just some sort of intervention in my life, man. I mean, I'm telling you, and I'm a firm believer, but that's the only answer. A lot of people don't want to hear that answer.
Yeah.
But that's just the truth.
Yeah. So tell us what was rock bottom? When and what was rock bottom?
Well, I stayed on bottom for a long time. The last 4 or 5 years I was out there getting high and getting loaded, it was terrible. There's pockets of fun. I had, and then there were pockets of the most severe misery and paranoia and sickness and guilt and shame and remorse. So severe. I mean, I had to stay completely inebriated in order to not think, So the last 4 or 5 years were just terrible. The last 3 years I was out there, I probably got arrested 50 times.
Wow.
I'd never been arrested before in my life prior to then. I beat some guy up when I was 19 years old, really, really, really bad. They never even put me in cuffs because I was in college. I went in and went to court over that. And Bill Kiger, God rest his soul, was alive back then, and we ended up doing pretty good in that case. But so I'd never, other than public intoxications and underage consumptions and stuff like that.
Sure.
When I was 31, by the time I was 31 to I was 33, I was probably arrested 50 times in that 2-year period. A lot of really bad ones too, real bad ones. Major indictments where I had to fork out a lot of money. My family would have to fork out a lot of money in order to me to have a fighting chance in court. And then I'd go through and it'd either get dismissed because of some sort of just weird, something would be off, and then they'd re-indict me for the same charge, so I have to come back and spend that money again. It was a lot of money, a lot of emotional turmoil, a lot of financial turmoil, a lot of physical, a lot of mental, just distress. And then the last 6 months I was out there before I got sober, I can't even put into words how bad it was. It's a feeling. Rock bottom's a feeling. It's not a decision. It's just a feeling. It's an internal feeling that happens within you. And everyone has a different threshold for pain. Okay? Some are higher and some are lower. Mine was a high threshold for pain. And I tell you what, I was whipped. I was destroyed. I was about 80 pounds lighter than what I am now. I'd lost everything. I had nothing left. I had some decent clothes and stuff like that left, but they were all stolen.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like proud of my clothes, but they were all stolen. And I had some bent needles. That's about it.
So what's the day when you finally, what happened? What's the day when you finally I've got to change or die?
I'll never forget.
What happened?
I'll never forget. I was at my grandfather's house. I love my grandfather, Big Mike Farah. He was there with me through thick and thin. Love him with all my heart. He supported me since I was a child. He loved me. He didn't know what else to do but to love me.
Sure.
And he would have loved me right in the ground because he just didn't know what else to do, and he enabled me. They were all scared. But I'll never forget, I'm sitting there at my grandfather's house. I'm 34 years old. And I'm in my underwear. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm dope sick, just dope sick. My hair's scraggly and dirty. I'm 80 pounds lighter. I'm grayish green complexion. And I'm nothing. And I'm wondering how in God's name I'm going to come up with the amount of money to get a fix to stick in my arm. And I'm watching Bonanza. And I remember looking at this and I thought, man, I come so far. My life has went to hell. My life has went to hell. I was already in a really bad place mentally and spiritually at this point in time and physically. I was coming towards the end. It was either going to be I was going to die because I've died a few times, I've been brought back to life. I was either going to die of an overdose or shoot myself or something. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have the sand to shoot myself. So I was stuck. Sitting there watching Bonanza with my jiddu. And I'm like, my friends are all moved on. Their lives are all good. They have families. They have jobs. They have great careers. They have all kinds of. What happened? What happened to me? What God's name? What's happened? And it's not even like me because I never went to treatment, and I started to call this treatment center over in Southside, Amity Treatment Center, and I didn't even have insurance. I'm not even a Medicaid junkie. I'm not even a Medicaid alcoholic. I'm a no insurance guy. I didn't have nothing, and because that's how low my bottom was. Just I didn't have nothing. And I started calling them, and they're like, well, since you don't have insurance, you got to call every week to check in for 6 weeks, and we'll see if we can get you in. Mm-hmm. So in between times of me getting high and all that stuff, because that would be the only time I'd feel like calling and talking to anybody, because when I'm Jones and I'm not wanting to talk to anybody, I'm sure as hell not wanting to talk to a treatment center. At this point, I'm isolated. It's nothing. I'm cut off from the outside world. All I do is come out, get my fix, go back in. That's it. And I somehow managed to make these calls. And 6 weeks later, they're like, you know what? We got you a bed. Can you be here? And this was on a Thursday. And they're like, can you be here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.? This is Friday morning, right? And I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I got a lot of affairs that I got to tell. I have nothing, but just typical. Right. So it's my last fight. I got a lot of things that I got to take care of. Come on. I got a life. What are you talking to? And my life was nothing. I was just nothing. And they bought it, and they let me come in Monday morning, and I went, and I wasn't happy about it. It sucked. I went down with a fight, man. It was the only thing I knew at this point in time. I knew this for so long, and it was just, it had me, the hooks was in me so deep. And I went, And I had a bad attitude. And they put me on a behavioral contract the second day I was there for an attempt to overthrow the Amity Center and attempting to monopolize the groups, splitting staff against each other and all this stuff. I had this real criminal street mentality, you know, and I just did things different. You know, I was wacky. I was gone. And I stuck it out. And I stuck it out, and I went through there. And while I was there, I hated going to meetings. I hated them. I was like, I could look at these people. I'm like, never in my life could I hang around with these people. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be doomed to this kind of lifestyle. I'm not like you losers. And I'd separated myself from everybody in the room. Mm-hmm. Didn't want to believe that I was like them. And I convinced myself that I wasn't. But the truth of the matter is, I am them. Mm-hmm. And they are me. Second week I'm there, I go to this big meeting downtown. And a guy got up there. He had 28 years sober. He's from Brooklyn, New York. He needed a double organ transplant. He needed a kidney and he needed a pancreas. And my God, that man got up there that night. And he shouldn't even have been standing there. He was so sick. But he was taught to carry this message at all costs. And thank God for it. And I got cold chills all over me. I get them every time I tell the story. He's passed away since then, but he died 29 years sober. But he got up there that night and he shared a message of hope that would make your toes curl. Mm-hmm. Blew my socks off. He got up there and he told my story. He's from New York. He went to college. He had everything. I come from a great family, graduated college, had a good job. Because I ended up having a killer job. Yeah. I bought a bunch of nice things. I lost them all, with that oil and gas, but because obviously drugs and booze always went out. And he told my truth, and he rocked my world that night. I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget it. And they tell you that the truth will set you free, and that night it did.
So you found another you that finally made you see the light.
What it did was it sparked a glimmer of hope in me that I haven't felt or experienced in years. Uh-huh. An enthusiasm, But it's like this. We can have those things get sparked inside of us. But we have to continue to do work to continue to find more and to seek more of that. I can't just have a great spiritual experience and expect to live off the rest of my life off that spiritual experience. I want more. I smell more. I know there's more now because I experience them constantly. But that night he did that, and it blew my socks off. I remember leaving that meeting that night. I could see more clear. I could hear louder. I could feel more. Everything was more vivid. I just came to life almost. And I'm not going to say that I was washed white as the driven snow. I wasn't. Mm-hmm. But I had that hope and that energy and that enthusiasm, from that point forward. And I wanted more. I wanted more, and I went out looking for it. And when I left Amity, I got with him, and he started taking me through the work. He started taking me through the steps. And I just hit the ground running from that point forward, and I've never looked back. I found enthusiasm. I found power. I found all kinds of things in my life since then, that helped light me up. Mm-hmm. And what I've got a hold of now, this fire and this passion and this enthusiasm, I'm never looking back. Mm-hmm. Ever. I'll never forget, I remember sitting there in active addiction saying to myself, my God, if I can ever just get a hold of this thing. Because I just couldn't stop. I could not use. Yeah. I could not drink. I couldn't stop. I lost the power to choose whether or not I was going to. I was powerless. Seriously. I didn't have a choice. I lost that power of choice. I had to have it just in order to be present. I was gone. The physical, the mental, the hold that it has on you, it strangles you. And you need it just in order to be a shell of a person. And I remember saying to myself, if I can ever get a grip on this, if I can ever get some sort of a grip on this. I'm never going to look back. I'm just going to run with it. I didn't know how, in God's name, I was going to get a grip on it.
Right.
And it really wasn't me that got a grip on it. It was God intervened in my life. That's the truth. God stepped up, and I had to meet him halfway, but he gave me a taste of this stuff without any work needed. And then from that point forward, you got to meet him halfway. I'm responsible for my sobriety.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I was going to ask. If you feel that not necessarily the rehab that you went, not the rehab that got you clean, but the eye opening of that point, you got that message.
You're damn right. Oh, excuse my language.
No, that's all right.
Oh, okay. When it lit me up that night, that's what it's about. That's what propels you forward. But let me share something with you. I would have never been in that position had I not went to treatment. I wouldn't even have been in the meeting.
Right.
And I wouldn't even have been dry enough. Treatment removed me from this world. It removed me from this chaos that I was living in for a 30-day period so I could somewhat try to gather my thoughts. And through that 30-day period, my mind was insane, and it was going insane because I'm suffering from untreated alcoholism and untreated drug addiction at that point in time, and I'm not using, so I'm just stuck with me on me. But I still have pockets and moments of clarity, and I'm given opportunities to go this way or this way. And it was a point in my life where I just said, I know it's going to be so tough. I know it's going to be so hard, but I got to go this way this time because I've been going this way for 21 years.
Yeah.
And I know that my life means more than this. I know that those dreams and things that I had as a kid, I know my life means more than this.
Yeah.
I know that I'm supposed to be something bigger and better. I know this. I have to go this way. And I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. And I knew it was going to be hard. But I never dreamt that it was going to give me what I have now. Never. Never.
So did you have to go through the full process still in the rehab? I mean, do you know specifically what the process is? I mean, you mentioned the meetings. I mean,
okay. So there's different levels of care and treatment, right? You got detox, where obviously it's just what it is. You go in, you detox, right? Physically detox, and then you have a residential level of care, and that's where you're living under one roof, right? And under that same roof, you're having clinical and you're having groups and all that stuff. Well, then you have PHP, which is the facility that I work for out at Mountwood, White Oak Run Treatment Center, and that's called partial hospitalization. Now, what that is, that means that the residents stay here, but the clinical's over here in a separate building. They're not under the same roof, so they travel back and forth, right? That's why we have cabins out there, and all the clinical and the groups and all that stuff, and the therapy's all underneath the main building, okay? And then you have IOP, which is intense outpatient, okay? Where they come in, they do the classes, relapse prevention, and all that stuff. And then you have OP, which is just outpatient. Now, those are the different levels of care. Now, the facility that I went to over there was just residential. It's a 28-day residential facility, and you go in there, and you stay in there, and under that same roof, they have your classes and your clinical, and all that stuff. From there at night, they're taking you to meetings. All right? Now, while you're going to meetings, you're supposed to get people's phone numbers. You're supposed to look for the people who has what you want. If I really want to get sober and I'm dying and I'm looking, I'm saying, I hear this guy sharing a meeting, he's telling my truth, and I see that he's on fire, and I see that he carries himself like a man, and I see that he's really living a good life and a productive life, and he's helping people. I want what that guy has, right? And so it could go both ways. I always approach the new guy when I'm in there now. I always, hey man, you got a sponsor, you got somebody to work with, you got a home group, where you at? Where do you stand? Because I know that some people are introverted and they won't approach you, and then sometimes they'll walk up to you and say, man, I loved what you had to say. Would you work with me? And I'll never tell anybody no. Never. I've worked with probably 100 guys. I've sponsored probably 100 guys. I've done a lot of that, I've served these people, man. It's my life. And I'm so blessed that I was able to get a job in drug and alcohol treatment. How amazing is that? Because literally the whole deal involved in a 12-step fellowship is to carry the message, is to work with people, is to work with other alcoholics and other drug addicts, to help them, right? So what a cool thing that I get to work, provide a living for my family, and then even outside of that, I still get to work for them, on the lines of service work. But it's my job. It's my job, and it's my job. It's crazy how that works. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's no better than you get to talk to somebody and you've been there.
Exactly. There ain't nothing else better than that.
Yeah.
In 12-step, they call that depth and weight. In other words, you speak my language, right? You've walked in my shoes. It's called language of the heart. I know who you are, brother, because I've been there. I walked that path. You don't ever have to hang your head in shame no more. You don't ever have to be full of guilt and fear. I've done that. And guess what? It's not because you were a bad person. It's because you were a sick person. And we're going to be able to help walk you out of that. We're going to be able to make you somebody. We're going to be able to make you a beacon of light. God takes care of his kids, but you got to meet us halfway. And we'll match their enthusiasm.
Wow.
So one of the things I didn't understand, so you credit God for your recovery. So obviously you committed your life to Christ and that type of thing. And now is Christianity associated with the program you were in? That's what I didn't understand.
No. And we don't ever want to confuse those two lines.
Okay.
Because in our fellowship, you're allowed to find a God of your understanding.
Okay.
All
so
right?
similar to AA or something like that.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's what
okay.
That's
so
what
AA or NA, AA or NA type.
I'm not trying to attach myself to any fellowship, or I'm not here to represent any fellowship or none of that. I'm just speaking my experience.
I see.
And that's my experience. But you're defined a God of your own understanding, right? Mm-hmm. What makes sense to you? I'm not here to knock anybody else down for what they believe in. I mean, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And many different people believe in many different things. But the point is this. It tells us that we have to believe in a power greater than ourselves, right? Greater than ourselves, all right? Self-reliance does us no good. It has to be some sort of God reliance or a higher power reliance. It doesn't even say that you have to believe. It just says that you have to be willing to believe. And from that thread of willingness, a lot of people will find that they found the loving and all-powerful hand of God. That's that's what they call it, that mustard seed, right?
Yep.
Of faith. And then some people, they have a bunch of different ways they do it, And the cool thing about it is that's what they say our relationship is like a giant toolbox. There's a wrench to fit every nut that walks through the door. And so there's all kinds of different people that have all kinds of different ways of thinking and believing and all these different things. And they fit with other people, they fit with other people. And it's awesome. Why do you think I was just a Founders Day this weekend? 82nd anniversary. 82 years. Millions of people's lives have been changed and saved because of that fellowship.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Rocking and rolling. You should have seen this place. You've seen the meetings. It's unbelievable. 20, 30,000 alcoholics and drug addicts together in a meeting at the University of Akron Stadium. Talk about a spiritual experience. 30,000 people saying the Lord's Prayer together. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed. Who would have thought?
So the way you explain your addiction, it's funny. The way you explain your addiction, now I can finally understand when I hear somebody say, I can never take another drink. Because I've always wondered about that. Not being somebody who is addicted, I'm like, why can't you just take a drink?
Never.
So that actually makes sense. Now, when you talk about that, it's 0 to it's 0 or 100, nothing in between.
There's no in between, right? I can never do anything. Never. No pills, no bud, no drink. And then obviously the hard stuff, but I'm just talking about the lighter stuff that a lot of people will, for me, some people get into that Suboxone and methadone. That's not me.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you too. So did you go cold turkey when you first checked in? No methadone? No methadone either?
No. Because I can't leave that door open.
Uh-huh.
I told you that once I put something in me, I react differently.
Yeah. So it wouldn't
I'm the real
so the
alcoholic.
methadone would not have started your recovery, is what you're saying. Right?
No. I could never just take methadone.
Uh-huh.
If I was taking methadone, I'd be out there shooting up ice and shooting up heroin on top of it, and taking benzos and smoking bud and drinking, you know?
So you had to come to that decision where it's just going to stop.
It's total abstinence.
Yeah.
Period. And don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. It's total abstinence.
Sure.
And I won't soft sell that to anybody because I'm not going to kill anybody with false information.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's kind of, and that way I understand it, I mean, the opiates, it seems like that's about the only way of people getting off of them as well. I mean, we had somebody on our show here a few weeks ago that just had knee surgery and struggled with, needing it more, and then whenever he got to a point that he just didn't want it anymore, he had to flush him down the toilet.
There's a very fine line.
And then he had the, like you mentioned earlier, the flu symptoms, so to speak.
Oh,
and,
it's awful.
Just
look how quick that was too.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of weeks after the surgery.
Yeah.
They're designed to do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not designed to help you, man. They're designed to keep the hooks in on you.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy. Ibuprofen, since I've gotten sober, you know what is the best thing? Ibuprofen helps me, and I'm full of arthritis.
I was going to ask you how you do deal with the arthritis.
Yes, it's ibuprofen 800s 3 times a day, and I stay moving.
Yeah.
You know, a body staying in motion, you got to stay in motion, man. You just have to. Because what that pain medication and all that stuff, it'll create phantom pain for me. It'll create pains that aren't even there, that aren't even real. You know, and good for the people who can take it, because not everybody's an addict and not everybody's an alcoholic. Some people can take it as needed and as directed. And God forbid if anything catastrophic ever happened to me and I had to have a serious surgery or something bad happened to me and I had to take it, I'd have to have somebody administer it to me and pray to God that Pandora's box isn't going to open.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the only thing that I can hope for, you know?
Got a couple comments on here.
No, more than a couple. We've had a bunch of comments.
Yeah,
38 people have commented so far, actually.
You've got quite the following, Rich. It's pretty impressive. Let's see here. Michael Shantz wants to hear.
Hey, I love Michael Shantz. Shout out to Michael Shantz from Warren, Ohio. Them boys do it big up there.
He wants to hear how personal inventory changed your life.
Inventory?
Yeah, inventory.
Oh, man. All right, so what happens is this. When we get into recovery, we start to take inventory on ourselves, right? I start to write down all the people that I'm resentful towards, right? Oh, that was great for me, because I loved my sponsors. Like, you got to write down all the people you're resentful towards. I'm like, no problem, because I'm a victim, and I'm gonna tell you why I hate them and what they did to me, you know. And I love that. Yeah, you know, I love that. Until we got to the fourth column of it, and it says, "What's your part in this?" Because I play a part in every resentment that I have. I'm either selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, or afraid. All right. So what happens is I'm mad at a guy because he tells on me or something like that, okay? And what's the truth? I'm being dishonest.
Sure.
The reason I'm being dishonest is because I was living like a scumbag. He told me because I was living like a scumbag. I shouldn't have been living that way. I shouldn't have been doing those things. If I wouldn't have been doing those things in the first place, I'm being dishonest. If I would have been doing those things in the first place, I wouldn't have gotten in trouble. He wouldn't have had a reason to do that kind of thing. And I look back and I thank God for all the people that did that to me today.
Sure.
They helped me get to where I'm at. But yeah, then you get to do a fear inventory. You get to write down all the things you're afraid of, right? And I walk into recovery. I'm like, I ain't afraid of nothing. You know, I'm like thinking I'm tough. You know how men are. That was my mentality. I didn't think I was afraid of it. I might be a little bit paranoid, but I'm not that afraid, right? But come down to it, I'm driven by 100 forms of fear. Fear drives my life, man. And one of the biggest was what do other people think about me? I'm afraid of what you may or may not think about me, right? I used to want to drive a nice car because I wanted you to think that I had something going on. I wanted you to think that I might have been a good guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a less than, right? Because I'm concerned with what you think about me. Now, if I drive the crappy car, I'm gonna be up in my head. My God, they must think that I'm a loser.
That's kind of surprising to me too. You would think a person, with all your success, I don't care what anybody thinks of me.
That's where I'm at now, and it's not like that 24/7. I can still drift back into worrying about what other people think about me, and I make decisions based off fear, right?
Yeah.
Like, dude gets slick with me, right? Says something slick to me, and I'm a man. Don't talk to me like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have to. It gets to the point where I'm 37. I have kids, and I have a great life ahead of me. Now, do I go beat somebody up because I'm afraid other people might think that I'm getting soft if I don't?
Yeah.
Or do I just walk away from it?
Sure.
I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to be trapped in that fear. What other people think? Oh, he walked away from that. He must be getting. So what? Let them think that. They're not changing my daughter's diaper at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
They're not paying my utilities. I sleep well at night knowing who I am. And everybody knows who I am. Anybody. There's a lot of people who's going to get out here and take shots at you on social media and take shots at you here and there. When they see you in person, it's nothing but hugs and handshakes.
I see.
And that's life. When you put yourself out there in the public eye like I have, because I've been in the public eye, people shoot arrows at you.
So is the purpose of the inventory then? Because I'm trying to put together the pieces of what you're telling me.
Yeah,
that's my fault.
I kind of went off on the fear.
My actual question is: the purpose of the inventory to help you realize the holes that the drugs were filling?
Well, it's the things that make me get loaded, right?
Yeah.
I get loaded over resentments. I get loaded because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And then we do a fear inventory. Then we do a sex conduct inventory. All right. And the harm. It's a harm inventory. And what have I done to people? What have I done to women? How have I harmed them? Do I lie to them to get what I want? And it was the truth. I used women as fixes for a long time. I used them just like a fix. I'd say whatever it took to get them. I'd use them as a fix, and I'd move on. And I think it's a typical thing. I think a lot of guys do that, but they just don't have the sand to come out and admit it.
Yeah.
I'm transparent about my life, brother. I ain't afraid to talk about the things. They don't define me. Those are things of my past, and I have to work towards fixing those things. And it's not always easy. It takes discipline, but I've been with a good woman now for a couple of years, and so I've been able to, all areas of my life have been able to nestle down to some sort of,
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
So
the
classic
inventory is to clean up. So what I do is I put all this stuff on paper, all right, and then I share it with another man. It's between me and him and God. Now, that other man is supposed to be a closed-mouth friend. So there's a lot of things I wouldn't want my sponsor or the guy that I'm sharing the stuff with to go share with other people.
I'm with you.
Because I'd be embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? There are people that come on here and talk about being molested. There are people that share that 4-step with their sponsor and that 5th step, talk about being molested and stuff, and they're ashamed, you know. And so I got to be a closed mouth friend. I have to have my mouth closed. So I discussed that with another man, and between another man and God, and just getting all that stuff off my chest. There's something so liberating about that, So then what do? I take all those people that were originally on my 4 steps, the people I resented, the people, places, and institutions, and all the people in my sex conduct, and all the people I've harmed through that, and I make a list of all the people that I harmed. Because I harmed those people I was resentful at. I got to clean up my past. And so at step 9, I go out and I start to clean up that wreckage of my past. And then I walk free with my head held high and my chest out, knowing that I'm not a bad person. I was a sick person.
So how do you do that? Did you actually go to these people?
Yeah, that was my question. Classic Seinfeld episode where George doesn't get the apology from the guy, and so he goes and confronts him at his job. Did you? How
you have to?
How big was your list?
Oh my God, my list is never ending.
I know that first one though, where you made amends. How many people did you make amends? This is
when I knew. This is when God really stepped up and showed out in my life. All right. So I told you about the guy who was my sponsor. We finished the steps that night. We go to this big meeting downtown. A guy shows up at the meeting that night, right? A guy shows up at the meeting that night. He was on my list as a never make the amends, right? Because I hated him with a passion. There was only 2 people.
So you can make that decision in your inventory, huh?
Yeah. Well, there was only because it could cause harm to him or me or somebody else, because we might end up. Who knows? It could be guns drawn. You could end up getting a fight. You could end up. You know what I'm saying? Because I lived a life of chaos. Sure. I was a child of chaos. See him at a meeting that night. The night I finished my steps. The sponsor said, "Oh my God, you'll never believe this." He's like, "What?" I was like, "That dude who was one of my 2 nevers is here." He was like, "You go make an amends to him right now. God placed him in your path for a reason."
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" No way. I'm like, "Man, this is crap. Ain't no way I'm doing this." It was my first amends. I walked up to him. I said, "Can I speak to you over here in the hallway?" He was like, "Sure." I took him over there. I said, "Listen, man, I'm trying to live a different life. I want to be able to make this amends to you and let you know that I was selfish, I was self-seeking, I was dishonest. I was also afraid. I was all 4 of them. I don't want to be that person anymore. What can I do to make this amends better? What can I do for you? Please let me know. Please allow me to serve you. Allow me to be of service to you. What can I do to make this better?" And the dude looks at me. He felt the same way about me, too. The dude looks at me, and tears come down his face. And he come in and he hugged me. He was like, "I love you, man. I'm so proud of you."
Wow.
And I just hugged him back. I mean, what else? I said, "I love you too, man." It was one of these experiences. It was a true spiritual experience. Mm-hmm. And I remember that I left that church that night convicted that what I was doing was right. I knew I was on the right path. If there was any flickering doubt or anything going on in my mind at that point in time, it was snuffed out. I was on the right path. I knew where I was heading. And God has been so good to me.
I got to tell you, man, I'm not a big God guy, but what you said right there is pretty powerful.
It'll blow your socks off, It's spiritual experience after spiritual experience after spiritual experience. And I'm not one of these people who go push God or push anything on people. That ain't my job. I ain't into that. I'm just sharing my experience.
Yeah.
And,
so that one was a good one, though.
Oh, it was killer, man.
So I just got to ask, though. Number 2, never? Were you ever able to?
No, I haven't been. Well,
okay.
and one of the reasons.
Opportunity just wasn't there?
Well, they're just in prison for so long.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm wrong. I'm wrong there. I can't remember who the other never was now.
Okay.
But there was 2 of them.
Gotcha.
Hold on a second. That's a good question. I was
just curious. Since you brought up the one, I wanted to see whether you had
because I've wrote a lot
opportunity.
of letters to people that I couldn't see because they're locked up or whatever the case would be, and then they out and came seeing me, and I've been able to help them and sponsor them and all that stuff. I make a living amends every day. Mm-hmm. My amends list is so big. I make amends daily. There are so many people that I forgot to put on the list.
I see.
Because I harm so many people daily that I run into them constantly. Gas stations, grocery store, the mall, and I'm like, oh my God.
So when you run into somebody that you forgot about, do you just start apologizing right off the bat?
It's not an apology. I don't apologize for anything.
Yeah?
Yeah, I go and ask them what I can do to make it better. Yeah. I tell them that I was a sick person. I don't point out their faults. I don't bring up I clean up my side of the street. Yeah. This has nothing to do with them. I don't talk about what they did to me, how they did it, or any of that stuff. Yeah. I clean up my side of the street. I do my best to do that, you just make it happen. Sometimes you say a quick prayer and just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't shrink. The big book says that as God's people, we stand on our own feet. We don't crawl before anybody. So we just make those amends. We go handle our business.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And actually, Michael Shantz posted something else. He said Rich is coming to share his experience of strength and hope on July 16th in Warren, Ohio, at the Warren Walk Against Heroin at the Amphitheater. If you want to say something about that, feel free.
I'm truly excited and blessed to be able to go to this place. Michael Shantz is a juggernaut in recovery. I love that dude. This is their 2nd annual Walk Against Heroin. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of these walks and marches against heroin's popping up, right?
Sure.
They were the first ones. This was the first one. He put together the first one in Warren, Ohio last year. And then we followed suit a couple of months later and had Parkersburg's first annual, right? Now, what happened was my dear friend Justin Stuckey had went up there to that walk that he had. He brought the idea back here, and we ran with it. But their first one up there was like 2,000 people that showed up to it. It was their first annual. He said, I saw him at Founders Day yesterday. He said they're looking to have 4,000 this year. So it's going to be big. I'm excited to get up there and share, man. It's going to be a big deal. I hope everybody shows up to Warren, Ohio for that. shout out to Michael Shantz. Thank you for everything that you do for your community and for you do for recovery, man. That dude right there is as solid as a rock. That's good people. The day before that, I'm speaking at the 1,000-man march in Norwalk, Ohio. I got so many speaking engagements, and stuff like that coming up. You just suit up.
We've got people from all over the states tuning in tonight. Teresa Reed says hello from Georgia, and
Teresa.
Christy White says hey from Tallahassee, Florida.
Christy.
So
how's everybody doing tonight? Hey, guys, if you guys support the Roberts Report, throw up some hearts and share this video.
We've been getting lots of hearts, too.
Awesome. Yeah, just, I'm blessed, man, to be able to be on the show, to be able to do these kind of things. 3.5 years ago, I never dreamt in my entire life.
Well, we like to be able to help,
Michael Pack.
Yep. 9th step cleared, he says.
That's my dude right there. I love that dude. I love Michael Pack. Hey, Lily.
So Lily Henderson,
Yeah, I know all these people, of course.
So Michael keeps throwing stuff out there for you. So I'm going to throw this one out to Michael Shantz. So he says, what's a shortcoming?
Well, the way I see it and the way I was taught, my character defects and my shortcomings are basically the same thing. Bill Wilson kind of just used he kind of switched the word off a little bit to so he didn't have to be repetitive. That's step 6 and 7. And what they are is what I just discussed with you. My resentments, my fears, my dishonesty, my selfish and self-centeredness, self-pity, my manipulative behaviors, all those different things that I talk about that block me off from this power that I choose to call God is when I'm living like, just negative. You know what I mean? Any kind of negativity blocks me off from this powerful peaceful connection, right? Whatever that is, I don't care what you believe it is. I don't want to put a face or a name on that. You know what I'm saying? I don't even, whatever it is. So when I'm living with my character defects and shortcomings, what will happen is this: when I come to recovery, I take my character defect, and when you first come in, a lot of them kind of go away like that, like the fact that you're a thief. And all that. That's pretty much better go away kind of quick.
Sure.
Or you ain't going to stay around long. It's hard to get honest all the time in the beginning because I've been a liar for so long. I can't differentiate the truth from the false. And so we got some of these real glaring defects of character, right? These real glaring shortcomings. And they what happens is it's like ping pong balls in a bathtub. I take them and I push them all underwater, right? And I feel like I got a hold of them pretty good. And here they come popping up outside of the ones that I have submerged, right? They come disguised in different areas, right? So what will happen is I start to justify, rationalize things. It's like I've been a year sober, all right? I've been a year sober, and this would be my mentality. This would be my train of thought. I've been a year sober. I've been helping a lot of people. I've been changing my life. I deserve to maybe be a little dishonest. I deserve to talk to multiple women. I deserve to, what I'll do is I'll start rationalizing and justifying negative behavior. And so, that's what I was always taught with. That 6 and 7, they were always tied in with each other. And those are steps 6 and 7, which are character defects and shortcomings. And what I do is I pray for God to take all those away from me, both good and bad. And grant me strength from here to go out and do his bidding. I do my best, man. I fall short. I'm a human being.
Sure.
I fall short.
But like Gary Turner mentioned earlier, he said that Rich is a good example that there's always a way out. So many people out there think, that this is it, it's the end, this is the way I'm going to be. And it ain't that.
No. And let me go ahead and let you know. It ain't the end. It ain't the end all be all. It's not the way it's always going to be. There's going to come a time in your life, though, when you're presented with an opportunity, to to do something, you got to step outside of your comfort zone to get comfortable.
Yeah.
And what happens is we get comfortable in that crappy way of life. It's all we know. You ain't get there so long. It's uncomfortable to step out of that. It's uncomfortable to go through detox. It's uncomfortable to go through withdrawal. It's uncomfortable to make amends to people. I didn't want to ever go do that. I'm too proud.
Yeah.
I'm a man, right? So I'm too proud to do those kind of things. So what will happen is that it's uncomfortable to admit complete defeat. It's uncomfortable to admit that I'll never be able to successfully drink or drug again in my entire life. All these things are uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to pray to something that I don't see. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's uncomfortable. But at some point in time, you got to take a leap of faith. Because look where you're at. When you're in recovery, once you got to the place of treatment or you got to the place of detox, you ain't there to add that to your resume. You're there because you're trashed. Yeah. You're there because you're chewed up and spit out. So at some point in time, you have to step outside of that. It's not going to be easy. You have to suck it up and move forward. But you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. Because we're here to help you.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're going to do this thing shoulder to shoulder. That's what we do. That's what Michael Shantz, Michael Pack, that's what all those people specialize in. Helping people. Helping people. That's our life.
So which coach would you have been under at WVU?
Nealon.
Okay.
And then Rodriguez was coming in there right as I was leaving. So I know Rodriguez, but it was Nealon. Nealon was cool. I mean, he was getting older. He was getting senile and stuff like that whenever I was there. Oh, you guys got the flyer?
Yep, threw up there.
Nice.
Nice.
Man, I'll tell you guys what. There's a bunch of stuff like that that's happening. July 29th at Point Park, I'm having the Freedom Fest Recovery Rally. We're going to have musicians, bands, speakers from all over. We're going to have food. It's going to be sponsored by the facility that I work for, White Oak Run Treatment Center out at Mountwood Park. Unbelievable place. Have you guys seen that video that I shared on that place yet?
I have not.
Not yet.
Oh, my God, man. It's 69-acre facility.
Feel free also to, post your things to Robert's Report. That's, we definitely, the whole idea of this is to get the message out and do what we can do to help. By all means, put all you want on there.
Absolutely.
On your page?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay, cool. I'd like to be able to leave my number up there. So if people need help, if they need help, if they need a meeting, if they need if they need treatment, if they need detox, if they need a therapist, all that stuff, reach out to me. My phone number is 304-916-4342. That's 304-916-4342. Let me help you. Let us help you. We'll be open the first week of July. We got a 69-acre facility out there at Mountwood Park, sitting right next to the 43-acre lake. We got zip lines. We got horse riding trails for miles and miles and miles and miles. We have individual state-of-the-art cabins all over that campus. We have an indoor Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Wow.
This place is the Ritz, man. I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. So when we get these doors open, we're going to be able to help a lot of people out. I'm very excited. I'm so blessed to be able to work for this place. But if any of you want to get in there, if any of you need help or need any kind of help, please reach out to me. And I'm going to go ahead and give these guys a screenshot of like a business card or something like that with my phone number or my name on it, just something of that sort. They can post it on their page. So if anybody's struggling with addiction or alcoholism, they can call me. There's a way out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a way out. You don't have to live like this, man. This ain't the end. If you want a better way of living, if you want a better life, we're here.
So as far as the suicidal part of you, what I don't know exactly how I want to ask it. Was there you said that you couldn't do it because
I didn't have the sand.
You didn't have the sand.
That's the truth.
Were you close?
I think looking back on it now, if I really get honest, and that's what I can do today is really get honest, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Looking back on it now, I believe that I used it as a manipulation tactic to get more things. Because if I told my family or if I told someone that I wanted to kill myself, they'd feel sorry for me. And they'd probably give me what I wanted. Or they'd probably back off me a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I believe I used it like that.
Yeah.
Now, I got to the point where I was living so crazy, I carried guns a lot, and I was firing off guns a lot in my house, in my living room. I'm dead serious, dude. I blast holes all through that place.
Wow.
And all throughout the neighborhood. Several different kinds. 30-06 going off in the living room. I'll tell you what, it's one of the crazy. It's got a percussion that you've never seen quite in your life.
Never experienced it before.
It's wild. It's wild. AR-15 out the front door. 380. You name it, man. I mean, I was
So
paranoid.
did you live in the country?
No, I lived right in a residential area. That's the worst part. I had surveillance cameras all the way around the corner of the house in a nice residential area, and a freaking floodlight that lit the whole neighborhood up at night. So the neighbors naturally were pissed because they couldn't sleep. The light was so bright. I was paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a terrible place to be. There's a lot of people out here in Parkersburg right now doing it, living like that. It sucks. There's a way out. There's a solution. No matter how far you fell down, no matter where you're at in life, I promise you that I can help you if you just have a little bit of willingness. If you just have a little bit of willingness, I can help. We can help a lot of you. I can't save you because that's between you and God. That's between you and whatever power that you get plugged into. But I tell you what, I can get you into a lifestyle that'll be far beyond the greatest thing you've ever imagined in your entire life. Because recovery is an inside job. It doesn't matter. My life, my happiness no longer hinges on my external circumstances. This is an inside job. As long as the internal's sorted out, I'm okay. And what I've really been given is a new pair of glasses. A new perspective on life. I'm blessed, man.
So I'm curious on what's your view on the Narcan?
Oh, keep it coming.
Arm
everybody with it.
It's a big controversy on,
It's a controversy until one of their family members dies of a heroin overdose or an opiate overdose, and they want them to get Narcan. God forbid, get little Jimmy his Narcan because he's going. It's always a controversy until it hits them.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to admit that this stuff's hitting people and their family, and it is. It's terrible. There's no tax bracket in regards to addiction. Believe me. I partied everywhere from the Greenbrier to Greenmont Hill. So.
And I'll be honest with, before we had Steve Stevens on here and kind of explained to us the laws and,
It's broken. The system's broken.
But he opened their eyes up a little bit more to this whole Narcan thing, though, and it made more sense to me. Before it happened, and I'd heard there was like a guy that was Narcan
11 times in a week.
Yeah, 11 times in a week, and I thought, man, that's ridiculous. That's what I thought at first. Why would you do that?
But it is, though. And I'll tell you why in a second.
But on the other side of that, though, he brought up the point, it is our job to protect people and to save people. It is not our job to take these people and put them in jail, and then they don't get help. I mean,
and I still remember, and you'll appreciate this, Rich, too. I still remember that one of his quotes was, one of the things that about my life is I'm a Christian and I believe it's my job to help people. And he said,
Steve Stevens is an amazing man, dude.
And as long as I think I can help somebody with that Narcan, I'm going to help them with that Narcan.
Amen. Okay, because that's his job as a human being. Since when do you put a price on humanity? Yeah. Since when? What's that Narcan costing you guys? It ain't costing you nothing. You ain't seeing it coming out of your checks. You ain't seeing that stuff. They're just giving it to people. When do you put a price on a sick human being, someone with a disease? Yeah. When has it gotten so bad out here that we can do that? We believe that we have the arrogance enough to think that we can think that way. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. They're sick, but their system is broken in regards to this, and I'll tell you why. A guy should never be Narcan 11 times in a week. In Ohio and in Florida, they have things like the Baker's Act, Casey's Law, and all these different things. What they do is if they pick you up one time on an overdose, bring you back to life, your ass is getting committed to a facility right now.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, because that's got to happen. You know.
So
what
you're saying is he should have never been put back out on the street so he could be Narcan 11
he should be
times.
forced into a treatment. He should be forced into
that's 14
days.
my opinion.
Of course.
You know, if you can't figure it out yourself, then here's the gateway. We're going to help you.
And just pray that something within him snaps while he's in there.
Yep.
And if it doesn't, and he comes back out and he overdoses again, and they pick him up again, send him back.
Sure.
Just keep sending him. I'm serious. Just keep sending him.
Yeah.
That's what they do in those other states. You know, the system's broken. You know how hard it is to be able to get a mental hygiene warrant on somebody? It should never be that hard. Somebody that I dearly love died 3 times in a weekend from heroin.
Wow.
I went, and it was hard for me to get the mental hygiene warrant on him to begin with. And then she went in there and went against the mental hygiene commissioner and won her case. One day after dying 3 times in 72 hours. And the reason being is because she was of sound mind during the hearing.
Sure.
So it's on your current mental state, not the fact that you've died 3 times in the past 72 hours. It's where you're at when they pick you up.
I see.
That's broken. That's garbage. Especially when it's all on paper. They have the record of it. The hospital, the ambulance has been dispatched to her 3 times. She's died. One time with the paddles. It was more than Narcan. They had to paddle her back to life. When's it enough? You know, when's it enough? So that's our job. That's why we stand up. That's why we've been bridging the gap at the political level.
So what kind of movements, I mean, do you have as far as not from the walks thing, but from a legislative side? I mean, have you?
Man, I'm plugged into several different politicians that I like to be able to work with and try to come up with different ideas. My dear friend Michael Pack from Ohio, he's on the thread. He's a monster, guys.
Mm-hmm.
He does so much for his state. And he's plugged in at the political level. You know, they're getting so much stuff done over there. And really, because here's what's happened. It's like, I can only wear so many hats. I can only take on so many roles, you know? Because at the end of the day, I still have to be a dad to my babies.
Right.
Right? And then I still have to work my job, all right? And I try to take on everything that I can. Believe me, a lot of times I take on more than I should. Actually, every day. But it's my duty as a human being. It's my duty as a member of 12-Step. It's my duty. And what we're trying to do is just change certain things, such as what kind of a law. We're hearing that they're supposed to be coming out with something similar to that here in West Virginia called Lissa's Law, because a woman's daughter died.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it should happen. There should be no more feet dragging. Once they've overdosed, they should be committed immediately, right from there. Do not allow them, no pass and go. They need to be committed. How do we do that? We get more facilities. How do we afford more facilities? Well, I can tell you this. Purdue Pharmaceutical, that company I was telling you that dumped all those pills into the state of West Virginia, we won a lawsuit against them. Now, there's a judgment, there's a big amount of money that we won in that lawsuit just setting West Virginia's money. What are they going to do with that money? Let's allocate it to bigger treatment facilities, state-run treatment facilities where we could send these people who are overdosing, where we can mandate them to go, right? If they're Medicaid, no insurance, or whatever the case may be, send them to those because there'll be 300-400 beds. You know, if they're private care, private insurance, send them to us. We'll handle it. We got 80 beds out there. We're going to have a detox center out there too. But we need more resources.
Yeah, I agree with you. And hey, you mentioned Michael Pack, and related to what you were just talking about. He said the Attorney General in Ohio is suing pharma corporations. I hope West Virginia follows suit and does the same thing. And it would be nice, because if you could get these big pharma companies to admit their part in this and then shove some money into these treatment centers, like you're saying, I think you're onto something there.
Well, of course we are. So I sat down with the assistant with the Attorney General a couple weeks ago, and I asked her that very question. because they're the ones who can allocate the money. The Attorney General in Kentucky did that. He allocated $1.5 million to 3 different centers. So we need that right here. And it just so happens on Tuesday, we're going out there's the Attorney General, Brooke Albright, who's one of the assistant to the Attorney General. They're having an event here in South Parkersburg. And they're going to have several different people come out. It's in regards to addiction and addiction services. So they're on the right path. They're doing what they can to help out. And we're just glad to be a part of it. I told you tomorrow I'll be in Columbus, Ohio. You know, this is nonstop, man. You know, I just got back a couple hours ago from Akron, Ohio. I did a national radio show Friday night. I was at Founders Day all weekend. I met with a guy who's like the godfather of recovery housing in Akron, Ohio, Elder Denny Wilson. He's talking to us about some major big things.
He actually made comments on here too. He's in the thread.
Who, Denny?
Yeah.
Is he?
So are you involved or affiliated with a ministry of any type?
Well, no, I'm very good friends. Tim Kraft is one of my best friends at the High on Hope Ministry. But that's their whole deal. You know, I'm on a total different leg of this.
Okay.
And they got their thing over there, and I support them 1,000%, and they help a lot of people, and I send a lot of people to them if they're not willing to get help the way that we want, because we have to have more options and more avenues. Not everyone wants to do 12-step. Not everyone wants to do this angle, right? So they have a bad experience there. Okay, so cool. Let me send you some faith-based guys.
Gotcha.
Here's Tim and those guys, right? So Tim, vice versa. Someone gets to him. Hey, man, I had a bad experience with the church. I had a bad experience with faith. But I don't want nothing to do with it. Send him 12-step. He sends them to me. You know, it's like you scratch my back. But he's one of my best friends. And he's a super amazing dude. And actually, him and I have a new series coming out. It's called The Hope Shot. Success Stories, Hope Dealer Productions. AJ Ficarra and these guys out of Akron, Ohio put together a series for me and him. And what we'll be doing is interviewing addicts and their success stories through recovery, the family and everyone else. Stay tuned for that. It's coming up.
My charger real quick.
Now, do you have somebody managing your speaking engagements? Are you still doing that yourself? Because it sounds like you have a bunch, right?
Man, it's too much. I probably have 20 this summer.
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe more. I really don't know. I just load them in my calendar and go. Yeah, man. I stay propelled, man, by God. That's the truth.
Yeah, and actually the reason I was asking if you were affiliated with the ministry was so the way we found out about you was the special that WTAP did on drug addiction, and it looked like in some of those videos you were speaking in churches and stuff like that. So
the one I spoke, the one video that they used out there was the High on Hope thing at the Parkersburg field, at the Parkersburg football stadium.
Okay,
I spoke out there at that event. That was Tim's event. Beautiful, but he put on a beautiful event. I mean, they really had it. Nice stuff. I'm talking about major sound system, beautifully set up, beautifully organized. You know, them guys are on top of things, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they don't play. He knows how to put on an event as far as what you need, you know, and all those kind of things, because he toured the world doing that with a guy who was in a ministry that did that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm on a whole different leg of things. You know, but I wholeheartedly support him and anybody else who's in their efforts to, you know, try to keep moving.
And AJ Ficarra has been commenting on him.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a juggernaut, man. We gotta love that guy.
Yeah, I apologize. I had to go get my charger. I was about out of. I forgot to. I normally plug in.
I've borrowed yours before, so yeah, I know what you're.
AJ Ficarra is one of the best people at what he does. He owns Hope Dealer Productions. He's also a member of the Warriors Project out of Canton, Ohio. These guys are amazing, man. They're about 1,000 deep bikers, and they help so many people. You know, they do a lot for a lot of people. And I just personally got close to AJ myself. Love that dude. I love that dude. He does a lot for a lot of people. Man, everyone I run with, that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? Seriously.
Hunter Travers says, "What's up?"
I love that dude. That's my brother. That's one of my best friends. That guy right there is a monster. Listen, he served 2 tours in Afghanistan. He was in over 100 gun battles. He got strung out on heroin in Afghanistan while protecting the fields.
Wow.
Thank you for your service, Hunter.
Yes, thanks. He's a stud.
Sure.
He's a stud. He's one of my best friends. He's one of the most solid people, one of the most morally and ethically sound people that you ever met in your entire life. Believe me. He'd be a good one to have on your show. He's got crazy stories about that over there in Afghanistan. He was in gun battles that were 8 hours long. He's been in over 100 of them.
I was just getting ready to say, that'd be an interesting statistic, too, to see people that have been over there and see all that crap.
Yeah.
That's an out.
He'd blow your mind if he told you the stuff that went on over there, and he'd be glad to come on here and do it.
I guarantee you it's time of day. I mean, you can probably have whatever you want.
Listen, they were just kicking in their doors. First of all, they were guarding the poppy field. But at that field is not where they manufactured it.
Yeah.
So you just wanted something, you go kick a Taliban dude's door in and take his stuff.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Okay.
They were instructed by the government. We don't care who you shoot, where you shoot, do not shoot in that poppy field.
I see.
If that tells you anything.
I see. Yeah, it does.
So these treatment centers, I mean, do they they obviously cover the heroin? Do they do the alcoholism?
And all of it.
We actually had somebody ask too. Now the question was, is it just private insurance? But I'm assuming she's asking, how do you pay for the program?
All right, so with the facility out there at Mount Wood, it is a private insurance facility. In other words, it takes the Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? United Healthcare, and just different things like that. However, here's the kicker: we scholarship 10% of our census. So if we're running 50 beds at one time, we'll scholarship 5 people.
I see.
Every month, right? So it's a 30-day facility. So we're scholarshiping 5 people for free, off the streets or whatever. If they don't have anything, it's like, come on. So it's not just like, but I'm going to tell you why there was such a need for that. And I'm going to tell you, I help a ton of people, right? Everyone reaches out to me when they need help, when they need to get into a facility, or when they need to go here, when they need to find a meeting, or when they need to find a therapist, or whatever the case is, right, at Detox.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was I started to have a huge influx of these mothers reaching out to me who their young son or their young daughter is still underneath their insurance plan, and they're strung out bad. They need a facility to go to, but they're scared to death to send them all the way to Florida. Mm-hmm. They're scared to death to send them all the way to California, right?
Yeah.
And we all know guys in the unions, people get loaded. They get in trouble. They don't, they want them to go to treatment, then they want them. But the cool thing about this is that I get to go out there and watch all these people go through that facility, and I watch them. I can touch them, okay? It's right there in front of me. I know what level of care they're getting, which is excellent, all right? The HOPE program, our clinical program, top notch. I know who they're going to be out there working with. The therapist is bar none unbelievable, just fire. I love this girl. And then I'm going to be able to walk them through that whole process and get them through that big book and get them through the 12 steps and all that stuff. And then as I'm doing that, I can transition them into the aftercare, into where they go afterwards here, right? So I follow them all the way through the process. This ain't just like, here, let me get your son or daughter help and forget about it. I don't know what we do. This is a real deal thing. This is a personable thing.
Yeah.
And you might have already said, but what funds this facility? Is it government funded or?
No, it's private. It's private. It's funded off people who go into treatment, right? It's what funds them is that they're if they have the insurance to qualify there, you know what I'm saying? That's how it works. And just like anything else, I mean, what funds the facilities that are out here that are Medicaid facilities, And it's like this. I don't see any of these Medicaid facilities out here ever sponsoring people or ever scholarshiping people.
Yeah.
They just don't. It's like if you don't have insurance, you got to continue to call back and hope that you can get in. We don't have time for that.
And it's kind of strange that a certain part of that wouldn't be somewhat government funded or something, or some kind of I don't know how that works on a government side, but I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well, where they usually step in is with the Medicaid facilities. or the no insurance facilities. That's where the grant funding and all that stuff will come into play, right? And they're be willing to help in those areas. I can tell you this. In 2016, we went down to city council and raised hell. We needed money for drug addiction and alcoholism. They didn't allocate a single penny towards it. And we were tired of it because we were suffering.
You hear this, Gary? Gary Turner's a big city council person. No, he's not in the city council. He's in their face. So
Right. Well, and since then, a lot of things have changed. Now, the people we have in there now are completely supportive of us.
Yeah.
Right? This was all the old council members.
I see.
So we went down there and we raised hell. And we threw our banner from the Walk Against Heroin in their face that had over 300, 400 signatures of people who died. Right? It said, here, don't deny it anymore. This is a problem. You ain't going to deny it. Mm-hmm. We're going to be back every second Tuesday of the month or whatever it is that they have their council meetings and throw it right there again.
And sadly, that's what you have to do to the. I mean, I used to go to some of these council meetings, and you're exactly right. It takes being in their face.
Well, and what happened was, God bless Sharon Cool. Gotta love that woman, man. She's
our council person, actually.
I love Sharon. And she got with the House of Delegate John Kelly. He wrote the treatment bill, right? It went and got passed through the Senate, which was eventually approved. Now and because of that, because of going down there and raising hell, we get 700 beds in the state of West Virginia.
Wow.
Awesome.
As a direct result of going down there and raising hell. And 100 in this county to 150. So your voice means something. Believe me when I tell you something. You're not a small person. The power's in the people. You just got to stand up for something. Everyone wants to lay down these days.
Yeah. So, I had a question, and as soon as he said it, I'm captured by all your.
I
your
can't
stuff.
believe how fast. I cannot believe how fast this 2 hours went. It's just flown by, and I'm telling you what, this has been.
Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Really eye-opening.
Even a merit system, you would think that you could work something out with the government, being able to, we've cleaned this many people, we've got this many people set on the right track. You should be able to get some kind of
funding
kickback. Yeah, I mean you should. I mean
to help with the cause.
Yeah,
you mean?
Why not?
I just haven't went that approach.
Or like a grant.
I got to tell you something, and the reason why I haven't is because
it's all about money. The more money, the more people you can help.
I know that, but the reason I haven't went with that route yet is because what I do is what I'm supposed to do. And it's getting to the point now where it's so big. It's too much for me to handle that I would be cool if I could get some sort of financial help from the city or the state or the government to be able to help me organize all the things that I have going on and all the things that I want to do, and because we have a lot more plans, man. The future's bright.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. Hell, I just turned 3 years sober the other day. The sky's the limit, guys. Mm-hmm. We just gotta, we just gotta stay sober, continue down the right path, keep God first, keep moving, and just keep helping people.
Yeah, Gary Turner he commented here again. He says on the government-funded money, he says how much is spent by our government on all levels fighting the crime caused by this. EMTs, police showing up on the scene. How does that compare to funding for treatment, relieving the other cost?
Oh, well, let me tell you something. Everybody knows that the war on drugs has been a complete failure. Everyone knows that. It's done nothing but cost us trillions of dollars. It's been a complete failure. Now,
so you think it was caught off guard, or do you just think that it was ignored?
What?
The failed.
It was designed that way. It's modern day slavery. They put people in a penal system, right? And they get cheap labor out of them. They make things.
Yeah. And then you've got the private prisons now too, where
hell yeah, they're making a fortune.
Where the private prisons don't want to rehabilitate a person because they want them back in the private prison or in the private prison to make money out of them.
It's
again.
big money.
Yep.
It's big money, and what happens is
really thought about that one.
They don't want them treated exactly, but our area has been really good at this the past couple of years in alternative sentencing. And they've been really, really good. Shout out to our local circuit court judges, and shout out to the local law enforcement and the local prosecution and all those people who are really trying to work with us to help people get treatment. Drug addicts, rather than sticking them in jail or prison.
Yeah.
They're willing to give them alternative sentencing if they just stay sober long enough and pass enough urine screens, and don't commit any crimes on the way to sentencing. They're willing to give you another shot. They know you're a sick person,
right?
So it's going to be things like this. Local guys like you having stuff like this podcast. Let's get the word out. Let's get this out. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll have something made up for you tonight. With my name and my number on there that you guys can post and leave pinned to the top of your page, or however you want to do it. It don't matter to me. Where people, if they need help, get a hold of me, because one thing I'm good at is delegating people to the places that they need to go and getting them the help that they do need.
I did put your phone number in the comments back when you gave it. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about to the end here.
I'm telling you, it was a good one. Like I said, the time just flew by. When I looked at I looked at the clock one time and it was 7:30. I'm like, holy crap!
I know. I looked down and thought, my God, that was
6:10.
Quick. Yeah, and actually, next week, before we get into it here, if we could get a hold of your buddy that's been in Afghanistan, next week would be a great time to have him on the show.
You want to get him on here?
Yeah.
Well, he works 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off on the oil rig.
Okay.
All right. So how about this? I'm going to get with him and message him, or I'll message back with you guys, and we'll get a date squared away. Is that okay?
Yeah. We're going to have Michelle Toman here next week. She is part of the movements on service people that go through the whole suicidal,
the bad.
PTSD and all that kind of thing. So,
it's bad.
We have a veteran coming on. Actually, Greg Brannon's going to be here next week as well. If we could get him on here too, we could get it set up with, enough equipment here to accommodate. I'd love to, touch that as well. I mean,
listen, Hunter will be an excellent one for you guys.
Great.
I mean, tell you, it'll be a damn good one. He's got a killer story. He's extremely smart. Believe me when I tell you, it'll be good for you and him. I mean, because it helps him to be able to get up here and talk about that kind of stuff.
Another comment, Sophia Stats says, thanks, Rich, for all you do.
I love you, Sophia. That woman right there, now that's a good woman. She does everything. Every year at Christmas, we have a foundation called the Up, Up, and Away Foundation, where we deliver presents to terminally ill children. And I dress as Santa Claus. And she, no matter what, every single year loads us up with gifts to take to those poor little kids, those beautiful little kids. Man, I tell you guys, I'm vastly overpaid. I got a lot of cool things that go on in my life.
You do rock a pretty good beard, though. I could see you doing Santa.
Well, it's kind of black. It's a little too black, but yeah, I do. I got some beard paint, but I always slap on a fake one anyway.
I don't think you need to this year. I like that one. You just died. You just died a little bit, man. Just died a little bit.
Blackbeard Santa.
They have a reverse just for men where you can go.
Yeah. Oh, you can bleach it.
I bet you they do. Well, my barber gave me some spray paint, some beard spray paint.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I think we are all right, man, to the end here. And Rich, I want to thank you. That this has definitely been one of the best podcasts we've had yet. Lots of people in here. Thank you for coming. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Anything we can do to help.
Anything I can do to help. If I can ever come back, rock with you guys again, I'll bring some guys back with me. We'll blow the show up.
Be glad to have you.
All right.
Join us here every Sunday, 6 to 8 p.m. here at Roberts Report page. Take it easy.
Because you never had to come.
Peace out.